भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं सुखमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतः चार्थेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सताम् वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्। श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तक्षणात्। Uttanapada's brother Priyavrata had 10 sons and 1 daughter. With each son he gave each continent to rule. And these 7 continents that we talk of, India is called the Jambudvipa, and this North American continent is called Kraunchadvipa. So he gave each one of them one continent. Normally when we give some assets to our children, like this many 100,000 or that many this or this, we start distributing it. He distributed the entire earth. जाओ बेटा तुम भी क्या याद रखोगे, ले जाओ. He ruled the entire globe and gave each son. The other 3 sons, they went to sannyasa, not because they did not get. They had already gone into sannyasa, and there were 7 sons, and he gave each one of them this. And then Jambudvipa, where it is called Bharat now, India, that was given to this putra called Agnidhra. Agnidhra, he ruled not just greater than his father, but as a father would rule, as a father would treat his own children. So that does not or should not imply that he was pampering his citizens. If required, he did not spare a rod. At the same time, he had a loving touch and concern in his rule. So after a long time of such ruling, this son of Priyavrata thought, let me find a suitable girl for myself, because I have to now take care of giving the society, the progeny that can take care of this Jambudvipa after me. And in order to search for a girl, he did not go to the eharmony.com, matchmakers.com. Instead, he went to Mantharachala, and on that Mantharachala, he meditated for a long time on Brahmaji. He is the perfect match fixer because he is the one who is creating, he will know whom to associate with whom. So he said, let me pray to Brahmaji. And Brahmaji, instead of giving him darshana, knew he was busy. He was otherwise occupied. He said, beta tujhe patni chahiye? Le ja. So he sent the best of the apsarasas that he had in Brahmaloka, and her name was Purvachiti. Now he sent this Purvachiti, this apsarasa, to the place where this Agnidra was meditating and doing his tapascharya, penances. And this Apsarasa also did not directly go and say, hey, Brahmaji sent me. She went around the ashram. And while she was going around the ashram or in and around those places where Agnidra would constantly use those places, like go for the bathing in that nearby river or get his flowers from the nearby Upavana. So she would be visiting exactly those places, and there was this, the flowers, not the flowers, the bees, it seems, instead of going towards the flowers, were following something else. And exactly there was this strange sound that was being made. You know, when they wear the anklet and they start walking, that anklet sound, so he was a little confused. He never had an experience earlier, naturally. He was confused that what is that sound making thing that is attracting these bees? So he goes, follows these bees. Now don't ask me whether it was spelling bee or math bee or geography bee. They were the original bees. So he followed the bees, and as soon as he saw a beautiful damsel there, he understood that the bees were attracted to the beauty of this lady here. So he doesn't know how to open up a discussion. So he says, hey friend, are you in search of somebody? Have you lost, are you searching for your husband or somebody? A very good starter, huh? Because the reply will tell him whether she is available or not. Because the question that he asked was, are you lost? Are you searching for your husband? Why have you come to this corner? Or are you some kind of a goddess from the heavens? And look at your beauty that, you know, all these bees are running after you, the bumblebees and the other bees are running after you. You must be Deva Maya herself. And you are this anklets, the sound that they are making. I have not been able to meditate on anything else properly after that. Now, probably here, don't imagine too much. Nothing romantic. He probably was worried, who is this other being that I only hear of but cannot see? Because he has been hearing this anklet sound. Now that I see the beautiful feet on which those anklet adore, I am totally flat for such a beauty, how may I help you? Now in this way, when Agnidra almost proposed, he did not propose but almost proposed, and even the Apsarasa saw that this Rajkumara was totally flat by her beauty. He was so taken up by her beauty. He said, "Oh, I have no friends, I did not miss anybody. But in fact, Brahmaji has sent me personally answering your prayers." थोड़ा और कम कर दोगे? And as she started feeding in for all the questions that this Rajkumar had asked, this Agnidra surprisingly was not somebody who was not aware of treating women. He knew how to take care of them very well. And the word used in the 17th shloka is called Lalana Anunayati Visharadaha. He knew what exactly women wanted when. Probably on this Rajkumar you could make the movie What Women Want. Because he knew how to treat a lady and how to take care of her with what needs, what specifications that they require. And of course, immediately as soon as she said that Brahmaji has sent, "Do you mind being my wife?" Probably she had another answer in her mind earlier, but after seeing him and knowing who this Agnidra was, this Rajkumara was somebody who was the boss of this whole Jambudvipa, and he had all the buddhi, yasha, kirti, rupa, everything that a lady would want in her husband. And she readily, she was so shy, feeling so shy, she did not say anything, but bent her head down. And then with her toe, the big toe, she started pressing the earth, and then almost as though dancing like. And the description given is like the creeper which goes on to the trees with even a small slight breeze, how delicately they move with the breeze. Now this lady, in all her shyness, was moving like that. And then they lived. They lived together, and he gave birth. Yes, it is okay. Now that they had started living together after their marriage, he gave birth to 9 sons. A very calculated birth giving, huh? Even Priyavrata gave birth to 10 sons, where 3 sons go for sannyasa and 7 sons remain to take care of his 7 continents. I am sure if there were 8 continents, he would have 11 sons and 3 would go for sannyasa and 8 would remain with him to take care of it. Very calculated plan. Either of Priyavrata or of him. So he also had 9 sons whose names were Nabhi, Kimpurusha, Harivarsha, Ilavrata, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, Kuru, Bhadrashra, Ketumala. These were the 9 sons of Agnigra and these names Purvachitti. And Agnigra gave these, divided this Jambu Dvipa, which had 9 different parts. And he gave these 9 different parts to these 9 sons to rule. He was so much in love with this lady that when she left for heavens, he also left for the heavens along with her, giving this responsibility to his sons. Now these nine sons of Agnigra very beautifully took up the responsibility that was given unto them, and then when they got to the appropriate age, they got married to these 9 ladies respectively. Meru Devi, Pratirupa, Ugradamshri, Lata, Ramya, Shyama, Nari, Bhadra, Devaviti. These were the 9 ladies that they choose to marry. This Agnigra's son Nabhi's life is where we are continuing now, because that is where the main story is. So we pick the Nabhi. This we enter into the 3rd chapter. And this Nabhi had a different kind of an approach towards life, because probably he had seen his own father, or probably that was his kind of vasanas. He was totally of a different set of mind. He said, I don't mind whoever be my wife. I don't mind whether she is beautiful or not. What I want is a son who is extremely efficient. सबका अपना अपना अंदाज होता है. Somebody wants a beautiful wife. Somebody wants, a lady was asked in her, when the boy meets the girl, are you interested in books? They were trying to know about each other. So they had heard, they talked about movies, sports and everything. Now they were talking about books. What kind of books do you like? Not many. One in specific interest, I like your checkbook. See, each one have their own interests, right? Nabhi was not interested in a beautiful wife either. He said, I want somebody who can be really efficient, who can really glorify our Vamsha. And then he sat down to think, who could be, or how could I have the best of the sons? And then a brainwave passed to him. A brainwave passed to him, and then he thought, let me invite Lord Narayana himself by performing yajna and asking him to be my son. See, when devotees are of different types. Some relate to the Lord as the Father, as the all-giver. Some define him as Mata, Tvameva Pita, Tvameva Sakha. You are the mother, you are the father, you are the friend. Now here was this Nabhi who wanted the Lord to be his son. क्या मजा आया होगा ना? See, in all these great ashramas that are there in Kashi, Banaras, or Haridwar, Rishikesh, there are only certain few who are called Jagat Guru. Very few. 4 or 5 of them are called Jagat Guru. And when you look at the names, they have these big names. Shri Shri Shri, 1008, 1008. Papu. You know what is Papu? Parama Pujya. So they cut it short and write Papu. Parama Pujya. So this person included this Jagat Guru, Shri Shri Shri, 1008, Parama Pujya, Swami dash Ananda, Veera Gadbadananda, for our reference, who loves Ananda in Gadbad. So this is something which had happened So all of them, the other Sant in that place, they said, how did you become Jagat Guru? Who gave you that title to become Jagat Guru? They said, that is a very simple question. I have the answer immediately. He said, come inside. Are Jagat? He called his disciple. Uska mai guru. I am his guru. So I am Jagat's guru, so Jagat Guru. They strive hard to become Jagat Guru. It is a strange misnomer. You take into sannyasa to drop everything, and there you start accumulating different names. Now what to talk of this Navi, who wanted to father the Lord himself. Now imagine the fun. उठ, भगवान उठ के खड़ा हो जाता है. बैठ, भगवान बैठ जाता है. See, the love for Lord, the way Nabhi had in his mind, was like taking care of the Lord as a Shishu. Shishu, a small child, a newborn child. It's not that difficult, huh? You may think, oh, once you have your own children, now you may ask me, how do you know, Swamiji? You know, one after the other in our Yuva Kendra, they have started giving birth to their children. So I see it with close quarters, watching it. Once they start, they are called night burners. They sleep through the day. And then when you start feeling sleepy is when they'll wake up. Even to lift them when they're newborn is an art in itself. You can just pick them like that. You have to be very careful. You have to put your hand underneath their head, just supporting their neck and head. And after all, they are this much. It's not something like the big one that you have to put your head and the neck also. Then how do I lift them? They're small. You lift them with utmost care. So he had that kind of love wherein he thought, let me have the Lord himself as the son. So for that he invited different kinds of Brahmana. All great scholars, he invited them. And he put his request to them. Hey, don't worry, Nabhi. With our effort and you as the Yajamana, we will invoke that Narayana, Yajna Purusha, and ask him directly. And they did an outstanding job. Lord Narayana was standing in front of them. In that Yajna, as a result of it, Narayana appeared. Now all these Ritviks, the Brahmanas who were there, they started praising him. They said, this is in the 4th shloka, Arhasi muhuhu arhatam arhanam asmakam anupathanam namo namaha. The way we have been taught by our teachers is, whenever you think of God, add the name and say namo namaha. That is what we can praise about you. The reason? Not that we have not been taught different vocabulary systems, different grammar systems, different languages. No, we have been taught by our teachers. But however we put our effort with all our intelligence in use, we are not able to find the appropriate word because of our small intellect to describe you. So now you fill in the blanks, you know everything, right? What beautiful concept. You know what you are, right? You fill in the blanks. For that, Namo Namaha. Because given an opportunity, we will not be able to describe you with our little intellect. That reminds me of another great Bhakta. He was one of the great Shiva Bhaktas. And he had made it his habit right from very young age that he would chant the Shiva Purana completely. Completely. It would take him several hours, but he would wake up early in the morning, take a cold shower bath, and then sit with that Shiva Purana, read through it, and then get to his day-to-day business. One day his father had sent him on some errand to a different town, which he thought he could finish in the day and come back by night, and then in the morning his puja and everything would go on the same schedule. It so happened he was stuck in a thunderstorm. He received the news that there is a tornado going through. Whatever it was, there was a huge thunderstorm. So he got stuck in that forest kind of a thing wherein there was no houses, there was a small little old temple, and he was happy that it was Shiva's temple, and he requested Lord Shiva, Aaj raat ke liye, for tonight, you and me in this mill. So he kept on talking to Lord Shiva whole night. When it was morning, it got a little better. He quickly got his shower, came back, and then recollected, Lord, not everything of Shiva Purana that I chant, I remember. It's only fragments here and there I remember. I am now at loss. How do I worship you without my Shiva Purana? Then came a brilliant thought to him. He said that from A to Ksha, in the Aksharamala, there are different syllables. He said, Lord, each syllable I will chant it 1,000 times. You rearrange it in Shiva Purana at your convenience. You know everything. I don't know, that is my problem. Or else I would have chanted it for you. Lord Shiva was so pleased with his innocent bhakti that he gave him a darshan and gave him a personal copy. Don't put me on job. You take it and you chant it. Now I am here to listen. Think. When you give job to the Lord gives darshan. Similarly here, these Ritviks who were there, they are very innocently praying. They say that you have anyway compassion to all those who are your devotees. And we are your devotees. And literally speaking, we are at loss of words, we don't know what to say. So now whatever you give your description as, all that we know is to add our Namo Namaha at the end. So, hey Swamin, say what you are. And we will add our Namo Namaha. And you are yourself so simple in approach that anybody with any simple thing that they can offer, you are pleased. Whether they offer water, whether they offer tender leaf or tulasi or durva grass. That's what he said even in Bhagavad Gita. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachhasi tadaham bhakti upahrutam ashnami prayatatmana. He says, whatever you offer, I don't care what you are offering. What I look at is the bhakti, the devotion with which you are offering. That is what I take. Imagine if the Lord comes and sits. One fine day, you are trying to do some puja and the Lord comes and sits. He says, Bhaiya, bahut bhook lagi hai. I am very hungry. Do you think what we have will be sufficient to feed his hunger? His Vishwatma, this whole world is in his Udara. Now to him, that which we are offering is not the criteria. The devotion with which we offer. So here these Purohits say that whatever we offer, O Lord, you are santushta, you are happy. And then, it is also because you don't need anything from us. I should tell you this experience of mine. We were in the ashram still getting trained, in the Brahmachari Vedanta training course. And each one is given a certain job, certain duty in the ashram. It can be something to do with taking care of everybody's health, administering medicines, provided you have some introduction into that. Iska uska ho gaya to. Or taking care of the PA system, the recording, the video recording, or taking care of the temple, taking care of Gurudev's Kutiya, or taking care of some guests or some Swamijis who come by and being their personal attendants. So there are different jobs given and we are on rotation. We are on call and we are on rotation 24/7. So once such situation, I was given the job of, or the responsibility of assisting the Panditji in the temple. Assisting the Panditji is breaking the coconuts, that is the assistance. That's the worst job, especially if it is around Shivaratri time. There are at least 100,000 people come from morning 3:30 onwards till late night 1 o'clock. They keep pouring in. And even if one devotee brought in one nariyal, one coconut, hamara to phat jata. And there are people who come saying that, I have vowed unto Lord Shiva that this Shivaratri I am offering him 100 coconuts. So, if you have ever gone to Sandipani Sadhanalaya in Bombay, Lord Shiva's beautiful statue is there in Yoga Mudra, and in front of it there is a small little pit kind of a thing wherein there is a real Shiva Linga. And you have to sit there, and this Purohitji will keep passing you the nariyal, and you keep breaking the nariyal on Lord Shiva so that that water falls on him, not the nariyal. I was doing that job of breaking the coconut, and you have to hold it in hand. That's an act also. You have to hold it in hand and hit it such a way that the water is retained in the coconut shell and then offer it to the Lord. As I was doing my job, I was hearing a very strange argument on the top. The person who had come said, you have to offer this to the Lord. And this Panditji would say that I am not offering this. He was from a very orthodox background. So I went in as a mediator. And this Panditji was also Malayali. So his Hindi or English was a little different. So I started mediating, and I liked the logic that that person had come with these offerings. You know what he had brought in offering? 5-star. Cadbury's chocolates, dairy milk, all these kinds of products there. Normally when you offer it to the Lord, it is with the fruits or nuts and such kind of thing. And he was saying that, I should offer this. Bags of it. And his logic was very sweet. He said that what is so great about you offering the same coconut and the same banana every day to the Lord? First thing is, he has created it himself. Okay, nothing unique about it. And he has been offered this every single day in every single temple. Would you imagine eating the same dal chawal daily? For a change, let him eat what we have made out of what he has given us. Let us give him that. So let him also enjoy what we enjoy in his world. For this attitude, I will go offer it. So I took that whole thing and offered it to the Lord. In fact, when you look at it, Lord does not require anything. It is the intensity, that purity that is required. So Lord, with this purity that we have offered everything unto you, with only one request. Poor Navi has a request for you. Please listen to it and say yes. After reading Puranas, I have learnt one thing. never say yes to anything until you know what it is. Swamiji, say yes. क्यों बोलूंगा? नहीं बोलूंगा. How many people बेचारे फंस गए? So the Lord said yes. Now another point is, does the Lord not know what Navi is wanting? It is just the pure innocent devotion of these Purohits that they said, "Oh Lord, please say yes for whatever Navi says. Then our job done would be done perfectly." The Lord said, "I know what Navi wants. He wants me to be his son, to be born in his life as his son." Now what to do? Now Lord is also playing along. Okay, he says, now if you Brahmanas have given in the word and I not adhere to it, then I'll be making you all liars. How can I make you Brahmanas liars? So in order to keep your word that you have given to Navi, I am ready to become his son. So Navi is Khush, Lord is Khush, the Ritviks are also, Brahmanas are also Khush. After having said this, the Lord disappeared. And in due course of time, Meru Devi, who was the wife of Nabhi, gave birth to this amazingly beautiful child. Now this is the avatar of the Lord, one of the avatars of the Lord, where Lord himself, Yajna Purusha Narayana himself, is born as Nabhi's son. So now everybody is scattering around, taking care of, trying to decorate the whole city. Whereas Nabhi is keenly thinking, what do I name my son? So that comes in the 4th chapter of the naming ceremony of Nabhi's son. After thinking a long time, he finally came up with a beautiful name. He said, "Let my son be known as Rishabhadeva. Let him be called as Rishabha." Do you know what is the past tense of think? Somebody thought and thought and thought and said, it was thank. So even Navi started thinking, he thought and thought and thought and finally came up with a name called Rishabha. See, normally in literature when we use the word Rishabha, we use it to indicate somebody who is unique, somebody who is Sreshta, great. Narottama is called by different names. Sometimes we call them Narapungava, sometimes we call them Naravyaghra. Even in Bhagavad Gita we hear Lord himself calling Arjuna as Kuru Sreshta, Purusha Vyaghra. And these are the different names to say that you are somebody who is great, who is unique, dear to me. Similarly, Nara Vrishabha is one of the things which says that that person is unique and great. This is in the literature sense. The actual meaning or the root word for Rishabha is Risha. Risha meaning that which moves, that which takes you towards perfection, that which takes you towards that completeness of knowledge. That is why those who are putting effort for that knowledge are called Rishi. Rishena Jnanena Bhati iti Rishabha. The one who is self-effulgent, shining like the splendor of knowledge, such one is called Rishabha. So now as soon as Rishabha was born, this Rishabha was probably 4 or 5 years old when his father Nabhi said, now the Lord himself is my son. Let me initiate him into learning process after having given him the responsibility of the entire kingdom. So when was his Rajyabhisheka done? When he was 5 years old. Probably the age wherein everybody is playing and having lots of pranks, he was given this huge responsibility to become the king. And what did Nabhi do? He said, my job of this kingdom is done. See, this is another unique point to observe. Those who have deep desire in their heart to dedicate their lives unto that Supreme alone, whatever be the responsibilities and obligations that are in, they will find a solution befitting that particular responsibility and obligation, so that they could aim for dedicating completely 24/7 their life to that Lord. But now most of us have come to the understanding, our own self-created conveniences. Taking care of the responsibility itself is moksha. No, taking care of the responsibility itself cannot be moksha. Because who is the one who is trying to take care of it? It is still the ego. As long as the ego exists, being firm in its own field, without giving it up for the Supreme, or let me put it in another way, without using this field of experience to purify oneself so that they could dedicate their complete life unto that Supreme alone, if that burning desire is not there within, age comes and goes, life comes and goes, different kinds of bodies come and go, but still we are in the same position. बच्चे मेरे बच्चे, हाय हाय मेरे बच्चे, still in that same samsara. You cannot run away from it, because wherever you go, you still carry these impressions. Just executing them is not karma yoga either. When this execution takes you to a level of nishkamata, desirelessness, selfless attitude, selfless service, when it takes you, and when you fulfill all these and then quit, and that is what Nabhi did. My father's instruction was to find able-handed ruler, and I have ruled it so far. Now that the Lord himself has come, take. And why did he have to leave? For only one reason. I will not be able to see him as the Lord, I will only be able to see him as my son. And it will still lead to attachment. So he left to Badrikashram. And here is this son, who gave lot of sleepless nights even to Indra. Indra is like any politician. Any common politician, Indra is like that. Anybody who is shining well, with lot of merits, lot of goodness, he gets threatened. Because when somebody crosses that threshold of goodness, he can claim a stake on that Indra Padavi. And that existing Indra can be thrown out. So he will create enough hindrances to make them do some kind of a fault. He will create an environment. He will not do it himself, no fault done by Indra, but he will create enough environment that the other person performs some blunder. That is Indra, typical politician. The only difference is खादी नहीं पहनता है. He doesn't wear that cotton, what do you call, kurta. He just wears an angavastra. That is the only difference. So the mentality is same. So once it so happened that Indra got threatened by him and said that this whole kingdom is flourishing under this person and everybody is forgetting me. So he said, Varuna, no more rains into that kingdom. And then he went into his balcony to see that there were rains in that kingdom. And he called, Varuna, did I not ask you not to have rains there? I have no responsibility there, I have stopped. Then that is when he realizes that with his Yoga Maya, with his Yoga Shakti, this Rishabhadeva called in the waters from the heaven and they started pouring down. Now this Rishabhadeva went through the Brahmacharya ashrama learning all that which the gurus could teach. He was like a sponge absorbing everything that could be given by these masters. And then he was also introduced into various other fields. He was also introduced into Grihastha Dharma. He absorbed everything. And then he shifted from the Brahmacharya to the Grihastha by marrying a beautiful girl called Jayanti. And after their marriage, she gave birth to 100 sons. How? Don't ask me. The description is not given here and I am not Jayanti. The only reason that I could think of is the Lord said, may there be 100 sons. And lo, she gave birth to 100 sons. Now in these, the eldest son was Raja Bharata, in whose name even today that whole subcontinent is cognized as Bharata Varsha, Bharata Kanda, Bharata Desha. So it is with the name of this great king of Rishabhadeva that it is named as Bharata. Somebody said it was because of Rama's brother Bharat. No, that Bharat is different. By that time it was already called Bharata Varsha, Bharata Kanda, because of this great king Bharata. He was the oldest one of them. There are 100 names given. I'll just tell you a couple of important ones. Kushavarta, Ilavarta, Brahmavarta, Malayaketu, Bhadrasena, Indraspruka, Vidarbha, Kikata. These 9 are the most prominent ones which took care of the 9 different parts on Jambudvipa. Other than these, there were those who became great masters in their own fields. They took to the path of Rishi. They were Kavi, Hari, Antariksha, Prabuddha, Pippalayana. You would recognize this word Pippalayana because Pippalayana Maharshi was the one who is the teacher in Prashnopanishad. So it is the son of Rishabhadeva. So these were some of the Yogeshwara Rishi. So in fact, he just created his own army, his own army of scholars, his own army of great leaders, his own army of craftsmen, his own army of people all around, and spread them around. He had 100 children. And this Rishabhadeva, who was very keenly following all the Grihastha Ashrama dharma that was taught to him, so that his point was Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. In the 15th shloka, it is said, Yat Shirshna Charitam Tad Anuvartate Lokaha. The same concept taken in Bhagavad Gita also. Yadyada Charate Sreshtaha Tattadeva Itara Janaha. Whoever is the lead that we think, we follow them as, it is wrong to use the word blindly, but almost blindly. See, even when you go to India, it is very funny, because the kinds of dresses and the clothes that are sold get the name of that particular season. That's how is the market. I think last time I had gone, it was like, Dil wale dulhaniya le jayenge lehenga choli. I'm not kidding. That's how they name it. Because that becomes the craze, because that particular person has a lot of following, fan following, and they want the same kind of dress, same kind of clothing, same kind of footwear that they have had in that particular movie. I think the last time I went, it was there a movie called Bunty or Bubbly? Okay. That was Bunty or Bubbly models. They were pretty jazzy colored. Little offbeat colors are all pretty bright, striking, piercing colors. Because whatever is the Sreshta, for those people who are the fan followers, for them that person is the Sreshta. Now whatever kind of makeup, whatever kind of hairstyle that they have, they start following that hairstyle. Now go to Las Vegas, you will find even today at least 100, 150 Elvis Presleys. They'll not look anything like him. They'll have that extra long, what do you call it, sideburns, those big sunglasses, the white patterned thing with lot of red spots, blue spots, bright stones on it, a silvery touch to it. For them, that Elvis is Sreshta. Even when you look in Chinmaya Mission, there are some Swamis who, they speak verbatim, exactly, word to word, with the same accent that Gurudev used to speak with. I'm not kidding, that Swamiji is right here in US. Including the gestures, including the walking style, including the talking style. Like he would look at me and say, Uddhav? I may not be able to put it in that accent, but the action and the gestures, everything. I thought that was only it, including the handwriting. If you observe, if you go on a round of all brahmacharis and swamis and take their signatures, inadvertently you will have Gurudev's Om on it. Why? For most of us he is the Sreshta and we tend to follow. that same path. So whoever is the Sreshta, the lead person, whatever norm that they set, whatever standard that they set, everybody else who is looking up to that person follows that. In this Balavihar, we have been growing so fast that I now only know people by faces. I don't know their names, I don't know who they are related to, how many children, nothing, no information stored here. And suddenly these kids, you find them sometimes in a restaurant, in a Starbucks or in airport, hey, Swamiji, and they come and hug. कहीं तो देखा होगा. The one good thing is, even if you don't know their names, with a bright smile, say Hari Om. How are you? So I saw this particular kid, I think it was in the picnic time or something, whose certain doing pattern, I cognized that I had seen it with somebody else. So I went to that lady and said, is that fellow your son? And she had the brightest smile on her face. She said, nobody ever could cognize that he is my son, because there is no similarity, that son is looking like his father. How did you know that he is my son? Did somebody tell you? I said, no, this particular thing, the way you do it, it somehow stayed in my head. Normally it doesn't. He repeated the exact similar fashion. Unknowingly, it is not genetic thing. The child observes and starts imitating it, starts following it unconsciously. So in the house, the parents are Sreshta. In the community, that particular person becomes the Sreshta who has all noble qualities. And everybody starts following them. So in order to maintain, in order to inculcate, in order to teach every single citizen how to live, Rishabhadev set a sample and example of Grihastha Ashrama Dharma by following it implicitly. And by following it implicitly, the end result was that never ever was there a situation wherein anybody that you interact with is an Atmagnani. They are established in self, they care for nothing else, they don't eye on anybody's things, they don't look forward to get anything, grab anything. Everybody were living at so much ease and peace all around. Because everybody was established in their own self. In fact, the claim goes that in his rule, nobody had to have even any locking system on their doors. Because nobody cared for others' things, they were so happy, satisfied within them, their own self. In that beautiful environment, he called for all these people and great masters and his sons, all of them together assembled. And to them, in this place called Brahmavarta, Rishabhadev addressed, he was a keynote speaker. He addressed to all of them, giving the message of karma, dharma, bhakti and jnana. And then he also made it a very strategic point. He said, this is the message that I am giving to my sons. It is one good thing to give that message in public. You know why? Tomorrow when they don't follow this message, the rest of them will come up to them and say, hey, your dad taught this and everybody were there listening to it. Why are you not following it? So he taught this whole beautiful message. And this kind of system seems to be there even in those days wherein there were large assemblies and there were this speaking system. I don't know if they had this, what is this? You know, they get training wherein you should not have this ums and ahs and Toastmasters. I don't know if they had Toastmasters training, but they all seem to be very good speakers. Because Raja Pruthu spoke, Manu spoke, and now we have Rishabhadev speaking. So he called up everybody, invited everybody. Nobody could miss the message. So the message starts in the 5th chapter. So in the 5th chapter, Rishabhadev very lovingly, probably addressing his own children, or probably he was addressing everybody who was sitting there because he felt all of them to be as his kids. So he called all of them Putrakaha. Putrakaha can be very lovingly translated into Hindi as Mere nanne munne chote bachcho. My dear young little ones. Putrakaha, Alpaha, Putraha, iti Putrakaha. Chote. See, for a parent, however old is your son, still your son, right? Still your daughter, right? Cannot be otherwise. The son might be 60, but still your own son. And still looks to you like a. That's a different issue. You don't like to be treated like a child. But for them, you are still a child. So his addressing is so beautiful. He says, Putrakaha, my dear children, listen to me carefully. And this 5th chapter has abundance of knowledge, abundance of instructions. He says, this human form is given to you, given unto you all, not to make a waste of it by living like any other creature, any other mosquito or a bug in this world. Why? They're born, they die, and they die an insignificant death. This human system that has been given to you, which is so beautifully, masterfully created. In fact, right today we were in the morning, I was talking and I was saying the same thing. Imagine he has given us 10 fingers. Each one of these, when you use with a constant wear and tear. Let me give you an example. The car that you use, do you use it 24/7? No. But still, by the time it crosses certain mileage, you need to change the tires. You know that penny test? You put the penny in, and if it is beyond certain level, you change the tires. Because otherwise it will not have the hold, the grip. Imagine for almost a lifetime, you hold anything, it has such a grip in it. There is no suction pump, there is nothing else. It stays firm. At the same time, anything delicate, you can deal it delicately. Anything firm, you can hold it firm. So much, the artfulness in this building of the system is that the sensitizers are here. The moment you touch, you know whether it is hot or cold. And the knowledge is not a posthumous reality. The moment you touch, there is a knowledge. What a fast system that Lord has created. Said, when the Lord has given you such an amazing, beautiful system, do not misuse it or abuse it. This hand that has been given to you, Ayam me hasto bhagavan, ayam me bhagavattaraha, ayam me vishvabhe shajoyagam shivabhimarshanaha. Ayam me hasto Bhagavan ayam me Bhagavataraha. O Lord, I trust in my own hands. May I invoke you in my hands so that that which I have clarity, may I execute it through my hands in your presence. How do you execute it? By saying that you perform such actions with this hand, that which does not hurt anybody, that which benefits everybody. That should be the way that you work with your hands. I don't know why he mentions it, but he says, the beautiful teeth that you have, Danta Pankti, the beautiful teeth that you all have, is been given to you so that you can smile, sharing somebody's happiness. You have been given such a beautiful intellect and mind so that you can constantly think of the Lord and paropakara. This sharira which is given to you, this body which has been given to you, is not meant to hurt others or to be a source of misery or pain in whatever kind. But in order to do divya tapasya, great penances, so that you can uplift yourself, so that you can purify yourself, so that you can establish yourself into that Brahmananda. And how do you do it? See, he first gave them the first instruction or first set of instructions. Now the second set of instructions, he says, how do you gain that? He says, you need to go and find Mahapurusha Samsrayaha, great people, and get associated with them. That is called Satsanga. Get in touch with great people. What will happen when you get in touch with great people? See, the example that I normally give about the magnet is taken from here. See, there is a magnet and there are iron pieces. You rub them in one direction. After a couple of strokes, even this piece of metal starts behaving like a magnet. And the magnet in itself does not lose any capacity of itself while the pieces of iron are rubbing on it. All that it does is aligns the other piece. So now the other piece can be called the masterpiece. Being with the master, associating with the master, you become the master's piece, masterpiece. So be in satsanga. When you are in dussanga, what happens? Normally when people complain, my son is a very good one. It is only his association, his company which is bad. Did you forget the old saying or what? Birds of same feathers flock together. If your son was really that brilliant, that genuine, even if put in that kind of friendship, that kind of association, should have so much of firmness of knowledge and clarity within that he can change the entire association. If my knowledge is so weak that anything, anybody, anywhere can influence it, change it, then I cannot find stability in my life. So avoid dussanga until you reach to that stage of stability. Because Mahapurusha, they have these qualities. Samachittatvam, prashantata, nishkrodha, suhurda, sadhujanaha. They are samachitta. They are equipoised. Normally when we associate ourselves with different people and interact, we create impressions of the other people in our mind. Oh, he's good, he's bad. He is, I don't know. Weird. We brand, right? Different kinds, we categorize them. Whereas these Mahapurushaha are the ones who are Samachitta. They do not categorize the world, they do not brand the world, they are equipoised, receiving, accepting all of them. They are Prashanta. Nothing can agitate them, nothing can become overwhelming for them. They take things at a face value, accept it completely and move forward, helping others, benefiting others around them. Prashanta. Nishkrodha. Nishkrodha, they do not have anger in them. What do you say about Durvasa? See, he also did not have anger in him. He used anger. And tell me, when he used his anger, is there anybody who did not get close to Lord? If it is whipping them to get close to the Lord, what is wrong in using it? When in this country you can call a football and use it with your hand. In saying that all that matters is you have to cross that line and hit it that side. Whether you do it with hand or leg doesn't matter. Similarly, here the masters are open-minded. If it takes anger to get you closer to the Lord, they don't mind using it, but they themselves do not carry it forward. They are not having that anger. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. That is what means by Nishkrodha. Suhrada. Suhrada, friendly to anybody and everybody. You don't feel, when you look at them, you don't feel like they are aliens. In fact, as long as you have not become a citizen here, we are all called that. Isn't it? We are all called aliens. Meaning there is no barrier, they don't have an ego barrier. So anybody who comes, they feel that friendly closeness with them. Suhradaha. Sadhu, this is a sadhu. And all these qualities start getting reflected in us as we associate with them. And he says, how long should you keep the association? How long should I be with a master? Until that question drops. Till then. Meaning never? That is what is the confidence that we have on ourselves. That we end up saying never. See, we keep this association firstly to improve ourselves, purify ourselves and to grow. And once you have seen the benefit and you have grown, you cannot disassociate. And that is why it is never. Not that you are tricked in there. The only way, he says, why the association is, as long as there is karma, the mind is agitated. As long as the mind is agitated, it keeps gathering all stuff from all different angles and sides, more of vasana created. As more of vasana created, you keep shuffling from one body to the other, to the other, to the other. Constantly we keep traveling. So what should you do? When you start supplementing the Vishaya Vasana with Bhagavat Chintana, that is the only way that these can be filtered out and thrown. You have to immerse yourself into Bhagavat Chintana. What is the benefit of this Bhagavat Chintana? It is 2 in 1. One, it clears out your vasana. Second, It takes away the identification of the body or to the body, saying that or believing that I am this limited entity called this body. What if I don't have that genuine interest in saying the name of the Lord? Even if you do not have that genuine interest, start saying. But it is mechanical, it is boring. Still say it. Why? Because there will be one day wherein that repetition of yours suddenly opens that doors that have been blocking the sweetness to trickle in. See, back in India, I have seen, there are many traditions. When a newborn baby, when they go visit, they take honey with them. And then with the honey, they rub it on the lip, lower lip. And once that, it is, I don't know why they do it, but what happens later is amazing to watch. First the child is like, he moves. Somebody, how dare you disturb me? And then, once that sweetness, the eyes brighten up. And he's like, give me more. Once you taste that sweetness, no turning back. And in that sweetness, you forget that this body is you. Because as long as I am considering myself as this instrument, which is my body, mind and intellect, I start my day, I start my life with the opinion that I am not full inside, so I start searching for everything outside. Like the marketing strategy of this country. You are born ugly until you apply makeup. That is what it boils down to be. You are ugly born, so you correct your dentures and you will be good. You are born ugly until you go to the nails and hammers. What is that? Pedicure and manicure. That's what they call nails, right? In fact, first time I went there, you don't tell. No, let me explain why I went there. It is still there. It is on Hillcrest and Frankfurt. See, I was in this apartment and I had to hang certain things. And it was just walkable distance. Because in India, all these hardware stores wherein you get nails, bolts and things, they write nails and bolts. That is what is their title. So it was written nails. I went inside. I don't know who had shock, them or me. Probably both of us were looking shocked. Unless you go there and get all things clean, you are not beautiful. See, we go with that concept that I am not complete within, hence I need to search for completeness. Maybe this person will feel me complete, maybe that thing will make me complete. Man, this place itself is bad. I'll go to Hawaii. There I'll feel complete. How long are you going to be in Hawaii? Until you feel that burning sense in your pocket. Your pennies start. And you again run back. Why? You are burnt out of that place also now. As long as we are associated with it, with the concept that I am limited, we keep searching for unlimited. The moment I start taking the name of the Lord, though starting mechanically, one fine day when that sweetness in the name of the Lord touches you deep within. That day it is called the turning point of your life. Once that sweetness intensifies, you're intoxicated in that sweetness. What body, what mind, what intellect, what religion, what world. That level of purity it will take you to. There is a beautiful mention here. He says, because we go searching outside, the Lord inside must be feeling very frustrated. Imagine. I think this happened a couple of months ago, and I was observing myself. They had invited me to a certain place, and there was, there were sofa sets. I was sitting there, and there was another dignitary who was to visit their house. So as I was sitting there, and that person, the host, did not even turn to give me a smile or a look, leave about asking for water or anything else. So I was sitting there observing. Look at the mind, how patterns are developing in it. If a simple little person who calls you to their house does not pay enough attention, and there are these patterns, imagine Lord sitting inside. Lord is sitting right here, and we care a damn about him. You don't even turn back and say, hey, Bhagavan, Namaskar. No. I am not talking God feels hurt. I think from our side, what kind of wrong we are doing. Now he says, he makes a list. Rishabhadev ji makes a list and gives it to his children. He says, you should find a Paramahamsa, Guru, Paramatma, or somebody who is a great Bhakta and associate with them. First do that. Then serve them intensely with pure heart. Whatever are the little happenings in your life, take them at their face value. Do not get associated and travel away with them. Use them and move forward. Learn through them and move forward. And then he says, even in the other world, without the name of the Lord, nobody can be happy. Now why do you have to go there and realize that? Start it right now. Consistently take the name of the Lord. Consistently think about the Lord. Share the stories of the Lord. Attend satsangs. And then he says, this mind, be careful with it. Be careful with it because it is like a wayside robber who first befriends you, who first comes close to you with all charming personality. Having taken your trust, ठगता है. ठगना मतलब it deceives you, it just shatters your trust every single time that you have trusted your mind. Never ever trust the mind. Gurudev's first lecture that I had attended, there are only few things that I remember. Not that I had gone with an intention to listen, it just happened that I heard it. One of the things that stuck in my head was, if a black serpent, black cobra, and a mind are there, whom do you trust? Gurudev said, trust the snake. Because once it bites you, it does not have enough poison to bite you again. But whereas the mind starts with a sweetness, coating of sweetness, layer of sweetness, and then induces slow poison. with every single act that you do. Beware of this mind. And then Rishabhadev ji makes such a blunt statement. Baba, it is very powerful. In the 18th sloka he says, Gurur na syat svajana na syat, Pita na syat janani na syat, Daivam na tat syat na patihi syat. He cannot be your guru or your svajana or your father, mother, or including your deva or your husband, if they cannot protect you, uplift you away from death. What a statement, wherein he says, he is not your God if he cannot protect you from death. And don't misunderstand that it is the immortality given to the body. It is you, the immortal, who is behaving as mortal. The one who does not give you that clarity cannot be your guru, cannot be your Ishtadeva. Further, Rishabhadev ji says, now he takes a different form of the Supreme, and he says, greater than all these animate, inanimate creatures in this world are the Yaksha, Gandharva, Kinnara, Kimpurusha. Greater than them are the Devatas. Greater than the Devatas are Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma. Greater than them all is me, the Rishabhadeva. The first time I read only till here, kuch jama nahi. When I read the sloka again and again, the mistake that I did not proceed further to the next sloka. Because in the next sloka he says, greater than me is the Brahmana. Why? He says, and this is an amazing part, he says, Brahmana is the one who is such a nishkami, nishkapati, who is not crooked from within, who does not have any desires from within, who is solely focusing on his field of science, trying to find something more new, something more innovative, something more unique to help humanity. Now such Brahmana are the ones who are Nitya Adhyayi of Veda, through which the glory of the Lord is revealed. Now such learned scholars are greater than this Rishabhadeva. So said Rishabhadeva himself. Now when you look at it practically, those who are the scientists, if they are not backed with enough patronizing, do you think they will be able to give anything productive to this society? They are the think tank and they need that support of patronage. He says, such Brahmana should be protected, should be given enough. They are greater than, Brahmana here is not just the birth special. Being born into a Brahmin family is not what is meant with a restricted meaning. The expert in that particular field who has reached the heights of that science has to be given that freedom to think more about it. So we have to, the kings have to take care of their needs. So, O sons, take care of these people. Worshipping them and taking care of them and providing good environment would be a great service that you would be directly doing unto me. What a pro-life statement made here. Like this, when Rishabhadev ji gave this beautiful message to his children and gave the kingdom to Bharata, his oldest son, and then withdrew from his responsibilities, completely getting into the final fourth dhama, sannyasa, and he was roaming around like a Virakta Purusha. Virakta Purusha, with somebody who is so dispassionate that doesn't care about their hair, doesn't care about their clothing. He was just roaming around here and there. What happened to him, we'll see tomorrow. We are still in this 5th chapter. We'll see it tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.